today on the Athlete One podcast.
Lazy doesn't fly with me. It won't fly with any of your coaches, regardless of whatever sport you do. Outside of sports, same thing. Whatever you're doing, give it 100%. And like you said, I preach, you give 100%, you will fail. It's just, unfortunately, this is a game of failure. It is what it is. And I'm not saying you shouldn't get mad when you mess up. You should. That means you care, but you have to have a short memory. So you give it 100%. If you mess up, it happens. What I don't tolerate is you go 80%, even if you make the play. That still doesn't work with me.
Welcome to the Athlete One podcast. Veteran high school baseball coach Ken Carpenter takes you into life's classroom as experienced through sports. Go behind the scenes with athletes and coaches as they share great stories, life lessons, and ways to impact others.
Hello and welcome to episode 46 of the Athlete One podcast. I'm your host, Ken Carpenter, and today's guest is going to be Megan Rembolak. Megan was a four-year starter and all-conference player in softball at Appalachian State University. After her career ended, she took that passion and wanted to give back to young softball players by providing lessons and posting videos on YouTube. Little did she know that her expertise would lead her to become one of the leading softball instructors in the country. Megan now travels around the country putting on clinics, and in a world where parents are willing to pay exorbitant amounts of money to make their daughters or son a better player, she asks for the opposite. She focuses on quality over quantity, and she calls it Meg Rem Softball. Her expectation is how she lives her life and played the game. Give 100%. If you're looking for an easy way to check out some of the previous episodes, go to athlete1.net. That's athlete1.net, and check out all the past episodes right there. And while you're there, go ahead and click the reviews button. Scroll down to leave a review. It'll take you just a couple seconds to leave a review and rate the show. It really helps us grow the show, and I myself really appreciate all the comments and feedback I get through the reviews. I also have to announce one more thing. A shout out to our sponsor, and our sponsor is the Netting Professionals. They improve programs one facility at a time. The Netting Professionals specialize in the design, fabrication, and installation of custom netting for baseball, softball, including backstops, batting cages, BP turtles and screens, ball carts, and so much more. They also design and install digital graphic wall padding, windscreen, turf protectors, dugout benches, and cubbies. The Netting Pros also work with football, soccer, lacrosse, and golf courses. Contact them today at 844-620-2707 or info@nettingpros.com, and you can visit them online at www.nettingpros.com. They're all over social media. You can find them on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Netting Pros for all their latest products and projects. Now, to my interview with Megan Rembolak of Meg Rem Softball.
Yeah, thanks for that intro. Makes me feel special.
Well, I've coached baseball for 25 years, and I don't think I had an infielder, a middle infielder, that made the game look as easy as you did from the videos I've had a chance to see. And I got to start off with, where does that come from?
Yeah, so that's tough. I grew up around the game of baseball. My dad, ever since I was younger, a kid, he was coaching at a Division I level. We were always at the games. It could just be I'm in a baseball family. I saw the game, but ever since I started T-ball at 5, I fell in love. And I know it's funny because being in, baseball family, I always say, I was around it. I have a younger brother. He's in baseball. However, I have an older sister, and she's a cheerleader. She hated softball, baseball. So I can't really say it's because I grew up in a baseball family. But ever since I started T-ball, fell in love with it.
There you go. I can tell by the way you play, you do it the right way. So, I actually really enjoyed the video that I saw where I think it was you and your dad taking ground balls.
Yeah, we went to, because we were in Ohio and that's where my family's from. We were in Ohio for Christmas, and it's 20 degrees, snowing. So we're like, what can we do? And I was like, actually, I would love to take some reps to film some YouTube video or whatever. So we were just kind of messing around. It was my brother, my dad, and my fiance, who's also in baseball, and we were doing double plays, and my dad's like, let me get in there, because I was doing something wrong. He's like, let me just get in there. And so he's acting like he's back in minor leagues turning double plays, but we had the time of our life. It was awesome.
That's great. Well, to go from a standout high school player to a 4-year starter at Division I Appalachian State is very impressive. But tell the listener what it takes at the college level to make it and be successful at the college level and be a 4-year starter like yourself, and why some players make it and some just don't.
Yeah, it all starts, I think, maybe around, 14, when you high school, when you start to think, okay, this is what I want to do in college. It takes a lot of preparation, being in travel tournaments, a lot of time. I mean, I remember a lot of times my friends in high school were like, hey, let's go to the lake this weekend, and you're like, can't, softball. And it's hard. My senior year, going into college, I wanted to skip tournaments. I'm not even gonna lie. I wanted to skip tournaments. I was already committed. My mom's like, absolutely not. You committed to this team. And then when you get in college, it's great if you get a scholarship or you walk on, whatever it may be. But that's the easy part. Getting a spot on a roster, getting playing time, that's tough, because you've got 20 plus girls, trying to get some playing time. So it takes a lot. It takes a lot of time, dedication. You're balancing school, you're balancing, trying to see your friends. So it just all comes down to just remembering your why. For me, I just have always loved the game, and I'm very competitive to begin with. So I knew, obviously, this is a team sport, but going in and during college, I'm like, I want to be the best on my team and in the conference. That was my goal.
There you go. I love the fact that you said you got to know what your why is, and the better players, the better athletes, regardless of sport, are the ones that are willing to sacrifice that weekend trip or hanging out with their friends to get better at the game they're playing. And it sounds like that's what you did.
Yeah. And it really is the why. Cause I do see a lot of girls that in their head, it's like, oh, I think it would be fun to play college ball, or their parents are pushing them, and all the time that you spend in college with your teammates and on the field, you've got to be 100% in. There's no even 80%. That won't work. So just remembering why you started and just grinding.
I got to ask, did you play any other sports growing up or in high school?
I did. And I'm very passionate about this. So I played, or at least tried to play, almost every sport. I did gymnastics for 9 years when I was younger. I tried soccer, which I didn't love because there was just way too much running. I did volleyball, basketball, and then softball. So I played 3 sports in high school. And okay. I did all 4 years. Yes, it was a lot. I just have always loved sports. I do get pushback because I'm always pushing. Let the girls play different sports. I truly believe it makes you more athletic. But I get a lot of pushback from parents saying, oh, well, we go to a big school, we don't allow it, which some schools don't. If it's a really, really big school, I know those coaches they want one sport athlete. But if you have the opportunity, I always say play multiple. And again, it takes a lot of time, but it's going to help you in the long run.
How did that help you specifically with becoming a better softball player?
So with basketball, and I honestly didn't love basketball. My dad was the one who kind of pushed me to keep playing because I was moving from Ohio to North Carolina, and it was more so for him. He was like, you can make new friends. And I was like, I don't love basketball. So I feel basketball kept me in shape. I wasn't great on offense, but defense, I'm moving left and right, just like you would in the middle infield. We actually ended up winning states 3 years in a row. So that
you must have been pretty good.
Yeah, so I'm glad he pushed me to do that. But then volleyball, same thing, like jumping and running and quick movements. I just, more so than anything, it kept me in shape, but it was also just staying in that competitive environment and, just competing.
Well, as difficult as hitting is, it seems to me that playing infield and when you're playing the game of softball has to be very challenging. And the way I'm thinking about it is you don't have a whole lot of time, and you can't bobble the ball because it's a shorter running distance to first base. And is that something that you had to really work on with your game?
Yeah, it was. And I will say too, so, baseball and softball, same mechanics, I believe, and infield. And the only difference is softball, it's so much quicker. For me, I was a slapper. I could go from home to first in 2.8 seconds. So you're facing slappers at, like, say me playing shortstop, I'm facing slappers. Like you said, you have zero room for air. So like growing up, I got all the mechanics, the basics from my dad. And I just think, experience playing in games, you realize you can't take that extra shuffle. You can't mess around. You got to have quick transfers. So it's just the more you do it, you realize, well, you got to be quick.
No doubt. That's for sure. I've watched some high school games, and I'll catch a game on ESPN, and I'm amazed at how quick the game is being played when you're playing softball.
Very, yep.
Well, switching gears a little bit here, your passion for softball has drawn you to stay involved past your playing days.
Mm-hmm.
Like your website says, inspiring the next generation of softball athletes. Talk about what you're doing with the Meg Rem softball website.
Yeah, so I started my YouTube channel. When was that? September of 2020. I was giving lessons. So I started doing softball individual lessons, January of 2018. And I started out maybe like a couple lessons a week, started to pick up within when it was, I would say 2 years later, I was considering going full time. I was picking up more hours. And then, my fiance actually was like, hey, why don't you start a YouTube channel? And the thought was literally just to make a couple extra bucks, because I was already doing lessons and showing drills on that facility's Instagram anyways. So I was like, all right, sure. And I started it, and it just absolutely took off. And I think the biggest thing was seeing how many coaches and girls really took to it and were like, thank you. Because truly, if you look on YouTube, it's baseball. There's maybe a couple softball players doing softball, but it's all baseball. Which again, mechanics are the same, but it's also just it is different. And so I think they just appreciated they're getting free drills to help their girls. So for example, a dad in Wisconsin's like, hey, I am volunteering my time because no one else wanted to coach this team. Thank you for these videos. Because again, he's like, I don't know what I'm doing. He's like, and you keep it simple and you break it down. And so that was one reason that just kind of kept my motivation and kept me, that was my why, to help out growing the game. Because then also too at lessons, I'm hearing, from Susie, oh, well, this is what my coach says to do. And then, another girl, and I don't want to say wrong, but wrong. So it's one of those, like, let me just help, because again, baseball, softball, it's different. You have a lot of baseball dads helping. So yeah, it's just more so helping just give free information on the internet where I can. And then it has grown now to where I'm traveling and doing clinics all over the country, which is really exciting and different. And this was never my intention, but I'm just kind of going with the flow now.
Yeah, I believe your next one is coming up in Nashville, correct?
Yeah, so this weekend in Nashville.
Speaking about your social media presence, I'm a PE teacher by trade, so I added up some things here, and you have, I believe, over 70,000 followers on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and your clinics have you teaching all over the country. Did you really anticipate it was going to take off the way it has?
No, honestly, no. And I'm not just saying that. It's wild. It's wild because social media is so powerful. And it's one of those, like, and I talk about this all the time to my friends, I don't love social media. I do feel it could be very toxic, especially for the younger generation. It is very positive. For example, I feel like what I'm doing brings positivity, but the amount of negativity comments that I get, or I'll post videos of my girls doing a drill, and the amount of just nasty comments to them, and they're 11, 12, that I don't love that aspect. And obviously you're going to get that. So I don't love social media for that, but I think it's just amazing how it took off so fast. And now I'm just kind of rolling with it. I was giving lessons full time in Charlotte, North Carolina. And then I moved to Florida like 3 weeks ago, and I'm doing more team clinics. I think I'll do lessons, but not full time. I'm going to be traveling more. So I'm like, next year could be different. Who knows what I'll be doing then, but it'll definitely be in the softball world.
I've looked at some of your videos to see what you're doing, and I think I know why it's so popular. Your video drills are not only just on just being a middle infielder. You cover all aspects of the game. You demonstrate, and you break things down so it's really easy to understand. And what I like about the demonstration is sometimes you'll show it happening in a college game on that's being played on ESPN, and then you show yourself doing it. Then you break it down nice and slow, and I think that's really the sign of a good instructor / coach, I guess.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I don't want to say pride myself on, but my style is I really like to demo it, because I don't know, it's one of those, you'll tell a girl something and it's just like, got it. But then when you show it, it's like, okay, she can do it, so that means I can do it too. And so, thankfully I can still, for the most part, demo and do it well and move. I am very sore sometimes after, but I pride myself in that, and I try to do it in lessons when I can. But yeah, that was my biggest thing, is I'm going to be able to, I'll show you, and not saying you have to show it to be a good instructor, but for me and my style, I like to be able to show it exactly how I want it. Or if I can't, like you said, I'll just show someone at the highest level doing it.
Well, I get the impression, I never had an opportunity to see you play, but I get the impression, your dad has had a big influence on you, and you had to be, to me, if I were to guess, you seem like you would be a coach on the field. And have you ever considered the coaching route?
I did for a long time. I thought about it after college. I actually reached out to a couple coaches, maybe it was like 2 years after. It was just a couple, and they didn't have any spots, and I kind of just let it go. I helped coach a high school team. And then 2 years ago, I did travel ball it was probably like 3 total years. And I loved the aspect of growing the girls. I loved being able to grow that, grow them as athletes and as girls off the field. I didn't love everything outside of it. So after that, I was like, I'm just going to stick to individual lessons, and I'm going to stick to now clinics. So I did love it. And then I thought about, do I want to go back to college? And I'm like, it's just like starting from the beginning. I feel like I got a good thing going now. So probably not.
Well, I think with what you're doing, you're able to reach a lot more people than just that one team or just the people in your area. So I really think you're doing a great job with what you're doing.
Thank you.
But what's the one message that you like communicate to the girls at these clinics that you do that are either just starting? And the game's hard to play because, like baseball, there's a lot of failure that comes with softball. Is there one message you try to get across to the girls?
Always, yeah. My biggest thing is give it 100%. And it's one of those, and this might be my coaching. I don't know how I want to say this. The coach in me, I get intense. I won't say intense. I get a little bit on these girls at these clinics when I see lazy, and I tell them, lazy doesn't fly with me. It won't fly with any of your coaches, regardless of whatever sport you do. Outside of sports, same thing. Whatever you're doing, give it 100%. And like you said, I preach, you give 100%, you will fail. It's just, unfortunately, this is a game of failure. It is what it is. And I'm not saying you shouldn't get mad when you mess up. You should. That means you care, but you have to have a short memory. So you give it 100%. If you mess up, it happens. What I don't tolerate is you go 80%, even if you make the play. That still doesn't work with me. So I'm always preaching. You go hard every single time, regardless if you make the play or not.
Now, did that carry over to you as a player?
Yeah, I'm just a very competitive person. I do think you're born with it, truly. I have parents like, what can I do to get my girl more competitive? I'm like, I really think it's how you're born. But again, like I kind of said in the beginning of this podcast, I always wanted to be the best. And I know that might sound cocky to some people. Like, I just always wanted to be the best at what I was doing. So in college, my goal, I want to be the best shortstop in this conference. And, if I'm doing my best, I'm going to help my team. So I'm like, even, at games, I'm always watching what the shortstop was doing. How is she hitting? What is she doing in between innings? It's like, I want to be better than you. So sometimes I'm maybe a little too competitive, but it is just who I am.
No, I don't see anything wrong with that at all. But let me ask you this. Were you ever the captain of the team?
So I technically wasn't named captain my senior year, but as a shortstop, it was one of those like, okay, fine. I don't need our coaches picked it. I was like, I don't need that title, but as a shortstop, you have to be vocal. You have to lead. I think and for me, my senior year in college, I had all freshmen around me besides my second baseman. So it was one of those like, I had to be vocal. So technically no, but yes.
Well, the reason I asked that question is I brought this up with my last guest, Joe Ferraro, and talking about being a leader among your peers and how sometimes that's difficult to do because one, the leader may not want to do it, but on the other hand, trying to get those around you to listen and play to your level. Did you ever have any trouble with that?
Honestly, no. I had such a great group of teammates in college, all 4 years, and everyone had the same goal, which is huge. Like your team chemistry is huge. We were all friends. We all hung out, which I also think really helps the camaraderie on the field. So I never had that issue. I do think, the girls around me, especially my third baseman, second baseman, I do feel like they look to me to kind of lead them, and I had no issue doing it. So, but I do think team chemistry has a lot to do with if girls are going to listen. And also, you as a leader, you can't just say it. You have to say it and you have to do it.
And that includes off the field too, I'm assuming, right?
Absolutely.
Well, you talk about these clinics that you do. How many do you see yourself doing throughout the year, I guess?
So right now my goal is to do to travel for 2 a month. I do have maybe like 1 month or couple months where I'm doing 3, but in Florida where I'm at now, it's a huge softball community to where I could drive 2 hours, come back in a day. So I don't have to be going, getting on a flight. And so right now to travel, I would say 2 a month, ideally.
Now, do you have do you put a cap on the number of people that sign up for it, or as many as possible? Yeah,
no, I do. I max out at 28, and and for that and how it works is I'll have, I either pay local girls to help me, or I have travel coaches who want to learn and they volunteer their time. I split girls up into groups and I'm walking around and I want to be able to, work with girls and give my feedback. And I'm sure I could probably do 35 to 40 girls, but I don't want to do that. I want to keep it to where I can, individually work with some girls.
Well, the PE teacher in me knows that you get anything above what the number you're saying, it's tough.
Yeah, and especially for younger girls. There's some clinics I'll do with our teams, and they're 8U, after 2 hours, I'm like, I need to sleep for 16 hours. I was like, I need to stop. That was exhausting. So props to those coaches and teachers.
Well, the thing is, as popular as you've become with this, you could go the complete other way with it and say, I'm just going to rake in as many people as I can get and make money. But you sound like you're trying to not only teach and have a great clinic, but you're more about the quality rather than the quantity, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. And, and I get a lot of requests to do virtual lessons. And even with that, I don't think it's a bad thing. Obviously in COVID, we had no option. I don't love coaching over a computer, and I'm very hands-on. And I know people are like begging. They're like, well, we don't care. And I'm like, I don't want to take your money. I just feel like you just don't get enough out of it. And then I also see too, just being around the game for so long, like even when my dad was coaching, a lot of coaches take advantage, and I don't love that. So I'll always keep, well, I shouldn't say always, you just never know. I'm in the foreseeable future, I'm keeping my clinic short, or not short. I'm sorry, small.
That makes sense, because I think you're doing it the right way. And anybody that would bring you in for a clinic should understand that, you're getting the best out of you versus, I've worked summer camps and there'll be 200 kids, and it's just like, oh my goodness, it's tough.
It is. So. And I do think people panic a bit. Like, for example, I just added a clinic in Houston next month, and people are like, we'll do 40 girls because who knows when you're going to come back. And it's kind of like a panic, like she'll be here, so we need to take advantage. And I get it, but I'm also like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And unless I have a lot of qualified helpers, with me, but we'll see.
Have you ever considered teaming up with someone and then you could really go that route?
I have. I just don't know who. I'm starting to, I wouldn't say drown, but I feel like I have a lot going on where I'm like, I might need to get some help soon. But then again, I'm also like, this is Meg Rem softball, and I want it to be, I feel like people kind of gravitate for me. So I don't know. There's a couple people in mind that I would like to, just do a clinic with, maybe not do something full time with them, but to team up and do clinics, which I'm totally open to that. I think that would be awesome. Full time, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, Meg Rem softball is, for a listener out there that tunes in and checks out our podcast, if they would like to have you come in for a clinic, what do they have to do to set something up like that?
Yep. Just, you'll email me, Megan@megremsoftball.com, and I will, and it depends on flight, because I get my own flight, hotel, rental car. It depends on what those prices are, but normally I like to keep it within $75 to like $85 a kid. Because again, I want this to be affordable for, for the most part, everyone, but also I need to cover a flight, which also flights are insane now. So, yeah. So we'll kind of figure out the location, how many girls you think would be interested. I do have a lot of private organizations or private teams that say, hey, we just want you to come in and work with our girls. We'll do 2 to 3 sessions. I'm 100% open to that. It's actually easier because the girls are already there. I already have that head count. Or they'll say, hey, will you do one with my private organization, and then we'll do one for the public. So yeah, you can just email, and we'll see what the details are, where it's at, how many, and we go from there.
And that's all on the Meg Rem softball website, correct?
Correct. Yep.
And as far as social media, if people want to follow you to see some of your videos, how do they find you on social media?
So all of my accounts, so I have Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and I just got a little bit more active on TikTok, because I know that's where all the younger girls are. All of my handles are Meg Rem softball.
That's easy, Meg Rem softball.
Yep.
Well, hey, I can't thank you enough for squeezing me into your schedule, because I know you're off to your next clinic in Nashville. But once again, Megan, thank you very much for being on the Athlete One podcast.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
This episode of the Bathlete One podcast is powered by the Netting Professionals, improving programs one facility at a time. Netting Professionals specialize in the design, fabrication, and installation of custom netting for baseball and softball, including backstops, batting cages, BP turtles and screens, ball carts, and more. They also design and install digital graphic wall padding, windscreen, turf, protectors, dugout benches, and cubbies. The Netting Pros also work with football, soccer, and lacrosse, as well as golf courses. The Netting Professionals continue to provide quality products and services to many recreational high school, college, and fields and facilities throughout the country. Contact them today at 844-620-2707 or info@nettingpros.com. Visit them online at www.nettingpros.com or check out Netting Pros on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn for their latest products and projects. Thanks for joining.